welcome back to We Are the Batman. My name's Mike.
And this is Matthew.
And today we are, we're sitting by and there's stuff going on over in the DC camp, but we spent a lot of time talking about the animated shows and the news and the stuff going on, and we thought we'd split the atom a little bit even more, and let's we haven't done a whole lot of Batman centric stuff in the last couple of weeks, and the name of the show is We Are the Batman. So let's talk about Batman. One of the things we love to talk about are the direct-to-DVD, direct-to-video animated movies they've done. And there's been a bunch. And so we decided to rank our top 5 Batman-centric animated direct-to-video movies. These are the ones where, like, Batman's in the title. Like, it's about Batman. So, like, we're not necessarily going to have some of the bigger Justice League ones in here. We'll save those.
Definitely not Green Lantern.
Not Green Lantern, not Wonder Woman. We'll save those for another episode. But just to break down just the Batman centric ones, I thought we thought would be a lot of fun. I'm a big fan of these, Matt. I don't know about you.
I'm touch and go on some of these things. I know it's kind of funny. I was thinking about it because I was talking to another buddy of mine about this. There is something I don't think you and I have ever discussed that I have a big thing with a lot of this direct to DVD content. Is originally I used to think that once Bruce Timm stepped away for a while, the content started getting blah. But then he comes back and it doesn't get much better. Right. And what I realized is the missing ingredient was Dwayne Turner.
Oh, that's a good point.
When Dwayne Turner passes within a year after the things he had been involved in come out, I think it starts decreasing in not value, but they're not as good as they used to be. Because I don't think he really has much. I think he might have been involved in Justice League War, but everything after that is post his death, if memory serves correctly. So I think that was the big key. Is Dwayne Turner, I think, is who is upping the ante with a lot of this stuff. And to me, his presence is pretty missed in those post movies. Because, look, Bruce Timm did. I don't mind. I like Gods and Monsters, but I don't think anybody else did.
I thought it was fine. I didn't lose my mind for it, but it was okay.
Well, I think the world of Gods and Monsters needs another movie to get me super stoked. But that's another conversation. Yeah. But no, I look at Bruce Timm. He's the one that was behind Batman: The Last Laugh. Is that what it's called? Yeah, the Killing Joke. I'm sorry. He's the one that's behind Batman: The Killing Joke. The Killing Joke. He's the one that's behind that Harley Quinn Batman.
That's the less said about that, the better.
Yeah. So that's where really I go. Bad. I think Dwayne Turner, and before that maybe Paul Dini, having them work things together is what made all that stuff great. Yeah. But that's just a theory. I have no idea if it's really sound.
Who knows? I mean, it could be a lot of things. It could just be they had a great idea and then they ran out of steam. It could have been studio interference trying to keep separation between movie and TV plans and the directed. Yeah, I don't know. It could be any number of things. But with that being said, there's so many of these things that when you've got that many, some of them are going to be good, and I think they're more than. I think quite a few of them are more than just good. I think some of them are absolutely great.
Yes.
To give you guys at home an idea of, we didn't set a whole lot of rules here. Basically, just it had to be a direct to video, so nothing theatrically released, because that really just eliminates one movie, which is Mask of the Phantasm, because otherwise that's going to default to number 1 no matter what. So we took that one off. Everything else, as long as it was direct to video release, and is a Batman centric story, meaning it's about Batman and no other DC characters, is what we're going with, more or less.
Yes.
So
Batman's one of the leads.
Batman's one of the leads is what we're going with. We'll see if either of us fudged that a little bit.
Yeah.
But anyway, Matt, since this was your idea, I'm going to let you go first with your number 5.
Okay, my number 5 is the one that I think is probably going to upset you the most.
Oh God.
That I really, really liked. and that's Batman versus Dracula.
Oh, you know what? I didn't include that. And you know what? I like that one. It's getting an honorable mention. I'll put it on the honorable mentions for me.
It is for as Saturday morning cartoon as that show is. That thing is dark as hell.
It's dark. Woo! It's good.
Yeah,
Because
it was.
there was a comic of that, wasn't there? Not of the show, but like in the 90s or something. There was like a Batman versus Dracula comic run, wasn't there?
There may have been. I don't know. At that point, I'm kind of not as into comics as I usually am.
Right.
But I just remember, like, I really liked the Batman cartoon for what it was. I enjoyed the hell out of it. I thought it was a nice kind of, let's do something original. Of course, slowly but surely, it just becomes your standard Batman show.
Mhm.
But this was incredible because it was just like holy crap, this is dark. You have Peter Stormare as Dracula. Suddenly Penguin becomes his Igor, or what is his whatever the guys who helps him out.
Yeah.
It's just insane how weird and dark that entire thing is. And yeah, I'm a sucker for like mixing genres and mashing that kind of stuff up.
Yeah.
So to have Batman existing in this horror world, I mean, let's not forget, I'm the guy who put that weird quote unquote zombie episode of the Batman cartoon on my top 5. So just to kind of have this weird Batman in a horror movie, I thought was fantastic.
Yeah, it's a good episode. I don't hate the show. It's just not my favorite. Um but I remember when this like aired on TV the first time, and I was just like, well, this is because it's 2005, so I'm a sophomore in high school. Yeah, Peter Stormare as Count Dracula is great because this is the second time that he's played a DC villain and absolutely crushed it. The first of which is playing Satan in
And
Constantine,
Constantine.
and is fantastic. Also getting to bring back Tara Strong, who plays Vicky Vale. And Kevin Michael Richardson's Joker, I think, is one that doesn't get talked about enough. I think it's a neat Joker. It's
Yes.
very different, and to still have him be a big part of this, but not in the way you'd probably anticipate. Yeah, it's fun. It's dark. It's messed up. It's a cool story. There actually was a trilogy of comics in the early 90s called Batman and Dracula Red Rain. I from what I'm reading, this doesn't really have a whole lot to do with that, but it probably took some loose inspiration.
Yeah. Yeah. It's cool. Yeah, Batman. What was it? Red Rain, Blood Rain. What was it called?
Red
Red
Rain.
Rain.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was a lot of those in the late '80s, early '90s where we started going crossover nuts, and
Yeah.
they would just cross Batman over with freaking anybody. Um, but no, I just thought
There's also an Andy Warhol movie called Batman Dracula, but let's just pretend that doesn't exist.
Oh, I think we're gonna have to look that up. But no, I thought it was a very cool. Like this is one of those movies too where like I like when they take something like this and it has zero repercussions to the show itself because the show was going on at the same time.
Yeah, this is like in the middle of it.
So it's just funny that it's like this whole weird, crazy thing happened and it's never mentioned again.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's my number 5. What's your number 5, amigo?
My number 5 is similar to yours, is a video based on an animated series, though it never hit theaters, and that's Batman Sub Zero.
Uh, how are we doing punts?
That's on your list.
You know what?
Let's
It's my number 4, so let's just go.
Well, then let's just talk about it. Yeah. Yeah, dude, this Batman Sub Zero is so good. It is an absolute. Okay, for those who don't know what it is, it takes place in the same world of the '90s Bruce Timm Batman the Animated Series. It's after the show has ended. This movie was released direct to video as a way to help promote the fact that Batman and Robin was about to come out in theaters with Mr. Freeze. Ultimately, this movie's better by a long shot, but and it's about Mr. Freeze and some stuff with his wife Barbara Gordon's involved, and it's kind of a rescue story. It's honestly Mr. Freeze is kind of more the main character, but it is still a Batman story. And yeah, this was a direct to video, and I think they really stepped up the animation for it. I'll tell
Yes.
you that. The animation is fantastic. The way they kind of blend the hand drawn and matte painting and some of the computer generated animation is fantastic, and it's a little bit of a darker story too. It it does have repercussions with the DC animated universe at that point, but it not till later. Like we don't find out what those repercussions are until new shows start.
Yeah.
Um, but it's a good movie. I just watched it recently, like in the last couple of months we've been doing this show, and it still holds up very well.
Well, and it does something that I love, and that's Dick Grayson doing badass Dick Grayson shit.
Yeah. Like he chases down Mr. Freeze on a motorcycle, like in a suit and tie.
Yeah,
That's
doing
cool.
ramps and jumps and yeah, I think and the thing about it is, if memory serves, this comes out around like right before the reboot of
It's right
season.
before because
So
they do the reboot with the new Batman Adventures after Batman and Robin comes out. It's like 2000
yeah,
when they do that.
so I think it's almost interesting in that, like, if you don't watch this the moment it comes out, when you go back and watch it, you're like, why does it still look like this?
Yeah. I know.
But
I'm looking at the dates here. Oh, so this came out after the reboot had started.
yeah, and I see that was the weirdest
Yeah,
part about it, is it's kind of like a step back in time.
a little bit. Yeah, but it's a cool step back in time because like the new Batman Adventures has been on for like a year at that point, and I think people still hadn't quite gotten on board with it as much.
Yeah,
Um, and depending on where in the show it is, because Mister Freeze does come back in the new Batman Adventures, but I don't think it's till the second season. I don't know, but anyway, this movie it's particularly because this is. I mean, it's a cool because when people were telling me this was coming out, they were like, "Oh, you heard about that movie Batman Sub Zero?" I'm like, with Mister Freeze, I'm like, "Yeah, you mean Batman and Robin?" I didn't know they were putting out this other movie, and
yeah,
I ultimately when you look. You know, looking when I was watching as a kid, I thought Batman and Robin was just fine because I was 9, give or take. So I didn't really know any better. But now when you watch it like modern day, it's like, yeah, no, this is miles and away better than the movie that it was, trying to promote, basically.
yeah, yeah, exactly.
All right, so that's my number 5, your number 4.
So now you're number 4.
My number 4 is Batman Gotham by Gaslight.
Go ahead.
All right, not a fan.
No, not particularly. It was okay. I didn't hate it, but
Okay.
this kind of falls into one of those, like, you guys change it too much. I don't understand why you just make the comic.
Oh, see, I never read the comic with this one. I never read the Gotham by Gaslight comic, so I didn't have that to judge it against. Just kind of taking it as it is, I
Yeah,
really enjoyed it because I love this Victorian era time period, and I love stories about Jack the Ripper.
yeah,
I really enjoy the movie From Hell with Johnny Depp. It's a train wreck, but I think it's a good movie. Also bringing back Bruce Greenwood to be Batman again, who hadn't done it since Under the Red Hood. It was very good. They have Anthony Head as Alfred Pennyworth, who I love Anthony Head a lot. And you still get Joe DiMaggio back. He's Bullock this time instead of Joker. And it's a cool little way of telling these other stories, like all the young homeless boys who are basically the 3 Robins. It's Jason and Dick and Tim, and the way they incorporate characters like Hugo Strange and Leslie Tompkins, Cyrus Gold. It's a really neat way of talking about these other characters, and I think the animation does a good job and just kind of um dumbing down the technology a little bit so that it still fits within the era, but is still more advanced than what anybody else is using.
yeah,
It's truly Batman as Sherlock Holmes is what this is. So I'm into it.
yeah. I think for the other thing is Mike Magnolia, drew that comic, and I really wish they would have tried to adapt his style.
Oh, really?
Yeah, just because it's crazy, crazy dark
Hmm.
comic as far as like just the well, I don't know if you know Mike Magnolia. He's the guy who created Hellboy.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
So if you look up any of the comic pages, it like I'm like, come on, you guys usually do a good job of mimicking the art style of stories like that. I wish you would have leaned into that more. But I mean, it was fine. It's not.
Yeah.
I don't hate it.
It's because I'm looking at the DVD cover and I'm looking at the graphic novel cover and the DVD cover. It looks like that's what they're gonna do. Um, it doesn't quite adapt as well when you watch it as well. I mean, I'm looking at some pictures side by side, and yeah, the artwork that Matt Magnolia did is fantastic. And again, I can't comment on how well it adapted the actual story, but
Yeah, it was cool.
I just yeah, I liked it. I had a good time with it. Don't rain on my parade. I liked it. No, I'm kidding. All right, so that's my number 4. What's yours? Or we
My,
no, that was my number 4. What's your number 3?
There's my number 3. All right, you ready to rejoice?
Yes.
Batman Beyond: Return of the Joker.
Yeah, baby.
Dude, I was so impressed with this movie. The
Yeah,
unrated
baby.
version. Is it on your list?
Uh, yeah, I'm trying to decide how.
Just
Let's
say
hold it.
punt.
Let's just say I know. I'm sorry, John Roca, Matt Nost. Please don't sue us. It's because of your show that
Wait,
the two of us came together. So
how
we're
about
gonna
we do this? Let's do this. Let's say
okay.
wait for the sequel because that's what we used to do in High Five.
Yes, let's do that.
Just wait for the sequel. All right. So
Let's do that.
is that your number
So that
3?
so that was your number 3. So my number 3 is Batman: The Dark Knight Returns.
That's all you.
That's all me.
That's all you.
Didn't like the movie.
I did not like Peter Weller as Batman.
Oh, really?
I
Oh,
to me it sounds like he's sitting on the couch reading his lines. I
oh,
know. I know. I just couldn't. I was just like, trust me, bro. That's one of my favorite stories.
yeah.
And it was like, oh, Peter Weller. I was like, oh, that'll be interesting. And then I watched it, and I'm like, why does he sound like he's sleeping?
So he definitely would not have been my first choice. He honestly probably wouldn't have even been on my list. Period. For me, I think why I love this so much is because you talk about faithful adaptations, like we were just talking about with Gotham of Gaslight. They ripped this thing panel for panel from the book and
Yeah,
didn't shy away from the what's essentially a hard R on this content. I mean, it's not, especially the Joker sequence is not for kids at all.
yeah, yeah,
Um, the homages to the Cold War and President Reagan. Um, I mean, some of this, the Frank Miller's The Dark Knight Returns changed comic books like
yeah,
hand over head. And regardless of how you feel about it, I mean, this book was so iconic that I mean, it's what Ben Affleck's Batman is heavily based on. The whole fight with him and Superman was heavily based on the fight that takes place in this book. And so to see them, like, because there had been homages to this story in other Batman fare over the years. The Batman famously makes some references to it. The new Batman Adventures had that one episode with the kids telling all the different Batman stories. That one of them was the story with the mutants from this one. So, I mean, what do you say about it that hasn't already been said? But I think as far as the movie goes, what really impressed me the most was just how well they adapted it. It was because I kept watching it, like waiting to see what's the first thing they're gonna change or not do, and they just nailed it. They crushed it
yeah.
with this one.
I thought it was a really good. I think they did a good job adapting it. There was a couple things here that I was like, okay, yeah, you need to added some of this and some
Yeah.
of that. I almost dare say I think my thing was like the problem I have now with that book is it's so freaking dated.
Oh, it is.
So dated.
It is 80s as fuck.
And I'm like, I really feel like you guys could have. I mean, it's not like you're making this in the early 90s and the comic is 10 years old. I mean, the comic was 30 years old by the time they adapted it. I kind of feel like maybe you could have updated some things here and there just to kind of make it a little more relatable, I guess. But other than that, like I thought it was a very good adaptation, and I liked most of it. It like the voice acting is what kills it for me. It's like I hate to be this way. This one and Batman Year One, which are like my top four and within my top 4 or 5 stories of Batman of all time.
Mhm.
The voice casting on both of those shows kills them for me, and I can't watch them.
See, that's and Batman Year One's not on my list for that exact reason. I didn't like any of the voice cast in
Yeah,
Batman Year One. Love the story, love the animation. I thought the guy, I don't know his name, but the guy who did the voice of Batman, I thought was atrocious.
yeah.
Um,
The
I
guy who
really,
played Gordon in Gotham is who did it.
oh my god, is that who that is?
Yep.
Oh, yeah, no, I'm good. But I think with this one too, I think it has a great voice cast in and of itself, though. Like Peter Weller, notwithstanding, I liked him. I understand why he didn't. But like Ariel Winter is Carrie Kelly, who at this point
Yes.
is just starting to make a name for herself in, well, not just, but is well into Modern Family. You've
She
got
does a
Michael.
great job.
She's great. Yeah, you got Michael Emerson as the Joker, who's fantastic. Which if you've ever watched, oh God, what's the show? Person of Interest. He's fantastic on that. There's a lot of old hats from DC anime that come back, like D. Bradley Baker's in this thing. Grey DeLisle's in that is in this thing. You've also got like Paget Brewster shows up. Bruce Timm is the voice of Thomas Wayne in part one. Rob Paulson comes back in this thing, who's been in a bunch of DC. Conan O'Brien plays a late night talk show host, and Andy Richter plays his sidekick, which is
Yeah.
fantastic. They die, but it's fantastic. They really this is one of the ones where it felt like they really tried. Like this wasn't just some marketing fodder. It's like they really put effort into this one.
Yeah.
Um and it really feel and all I mean also the music's very good. Christopher Drake did the music and it's very good. So yeah, that's Batman the Dark Knight Returns. It's my number 3. Let's go to your number 2, Matt.
Okay, my number 2, and I can't help it. I just love this friggin' thing because I love the book. It's Batman versus Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
I almost put it on. It's
Dude,
an honorable mention. It shouldn't be as good as it is. It has no business being as good as it is, and it's fantastic.
it sucks because they beat this dead horse, and I think they did like three more of the comics. Like I think they did like a 2 and a
Comics were
3.
good, actually. The comics
The
weren't bad at all.
the first one I liked. The second was okay. The third one was like, all right, I'm done with this idea. You guys are running this into the ground. Um, but no, I really liked this. And for one, the one that really kicked it for me was like, man, the action scenes in this thing are ridiculously good,
Mhm.
ridiculously good. And that takes that goes far for me. Like when you play with that and have a good time, and I never knew I needed to see Shredder and Batman duke it out hardcore raid redemption style.
Oh, so good.
Makes no sense, but it was great. And it was just like, okay, yeah, that's what we're gonna do here. Sure, why not?
Yeah.
So I had fun with that. Aside from that, the show was great. You know, so yeah, I couldn't. This is my number 2. It's just so fantastic and great, and like you said, the fact that it surprised me because I wasn't sure how good it was going to be, and it was fantastic. Like, okay, yeah, we're here.
Yeah. Had no business being as good as it was, and it's very fun. The Batman Shredder fight alone is almost worth the price of admission. I say that, and it's a DVD, but no, very much enjoyed it.
I bought it. I had to pay the admission for it.
It's good stuff. All right, you ready for my number 2?
I thought that. Oh, okay, yeah.
What
Which
was your
man?
number
I'm
2?
that was
Because
yeah.
we had to hold one of mine, and we're getting to it now, and that's Batman Beyond Return of the Joker is my number 2.
Oh, okay. It's not your number 1. Okay,
No,
yeah.
it's not my number 1. It's not my number 1. Mostly because with this movie, I love 99% of this movie. I love 99% of this movie. The 1% of it that I don't like is I don't buy the Tim Drake as Robin thing or Tim Drake as Joker thing.
It's a little weird
It's a
without
little
some
weird.
kind of lead up.
And I understand it's a cartoon, and so I think part of it is the fact that like his physiology changes, his everything, his memories change, and I'm like, all because of a microchip from the 90s.
Yeah.
I'm having a little bit of a hard time believing Joker came up with that, but it's still good when it's on screen. It's just the logic of the transition doesn't quite hit me. But everything about this movie, other around that, and we're talking about the actual version of this movie, not the TV friendly one
Yeah.
that shouldn't exist. I mean, I get why it does, but and there is a difference. So maybe you've not seen the actual. Get the DVD, kids, and watch the director's cut version of this. Like most movies, the director's cut is better. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but
Mm-hmm.
you bring back Mark Hamill as the Joker. You have Angie Harmon doing the voice of Barbara Gordon, which is cool because she's from Law and Order, and that's neat. But you also bring in, like, this is where we meet Dee Dee, who is Melissa Joan Hart, who plays these two Joker gang twins, who we find out later are the granddaughters of Harleen Quinzel, who is again voiced by Arlene Sorkin in this. Michael Rosenbaum is in this. Henry Rollins is in this. I mean, it's a great voice cast as always, and it's just a cool story. It's a very cool story.
Yes. Yeah. This is honestly, I want to say I watched the pilot
Mhm.
of Batman Beyond, but I don't think I ever watched another one.
Oh, really?
So yeah, so this is like the second Batman Beyond thing I watched, and I was like, "This is awesome." And then I think I went back and was like, "No, I'm still not there." But
Well, what's funny is, so in the movie, Barbara Gordon mentions that they buried the Joker's body somewhere on the Arkham grounds, and there actually is an episode of the show later on where that body is found, and it's
that's
kind of
creepy.
cool and messed up. um, Basically, somebody's digging on Arkham, and there's just a body in a purple suit, and you're like, oh wait, that's the oh. Um, anyway, but also what's cool is there was a cool bit of casting in this, which I don't think a lot of kids were gonna pick up on, but I feel like it was just kind of something fun for the directors, which is that Mark Hamill plays two characters in this. He plays the Joker, and he plays this guy Jordan Price, who is kind of the story's like um
Red herring.
red herring of this. And so it's kind of like, oh well, it's the same guy, so maybe it's because they did the same thing in Mask of the Phantasm with Stacy Keach, because he voices Andrea's dad and is also the voice of the Phantasm.
Yeah.
So this is not the first time they've done that, and it's one of those things, like, kids aren't going to pick up on that because they're kids, we're stupid, but the adults who are watching it are going to be, or like guys like us who are adults watching it later in life, are like, oh, well, that's neat. So I thought that was a cool idea of having Mark Hamill play both Joker and the red herring.
Yes, definitely, definitely.
All right, so I'm curious now. What's your number one?
I'm curious what your number one is because this has
Okay.
thrown me for a loop. So
Okay.
I'm trying to decide if we line up or if we're about to battle.
Okay.
All right. Am I next or are you next?
You're next. What's your number one?
Batman, Superman, Public Enemies.
No. No. It's on my honorable mentions, but I didn't pick it.
Oh, you son of a. No.
Oh, I'm gonna tell you. I'm thinking the same thing about you not picking mine. So we'll see here.
It's not even on either one of our lists. That's hilarious. What is yours?
Mine is Batman Under the Red Hood. Did I did I break you?
You didn't break me. I'm trying to decide if it goes on this list or not.
What?
Uh, dude, I have a deep hatred for Jason Todd and the entire Red Hood storyline.
I know, but the movie's so good.
I know, but it's so weird. You know what? I'm gonna boot off
You
Batman Dracula. I'll put it at the bottom of my list.
you don't have to. It's fine.
No, it's okay because you're right. It is actually really good.
You don't
You know
have
what it
to.
is? The version of Joker that's in this show creeps me out, and I love it.
Who?
Joe DiMaggio
Joe
is
DiMaggio's
Joker in
Joker?
this.
He's
He
great.
does this weird, like, what did he say? I'm trying to be your white trash uncle as Joker, and
That's so funny.
I was like, it
I love the
is.
way he says. I love the way he says, "Tell the big man I said hello."
Yeah, yeah. It's just like
Okay.
all the cringe creepiness. It's great. So, but no, I have a very maybe we've never discussed this. I have a deep hatred of the whole Jason Todd Returns
does it rival my hatred of Damian Wayne? Because you know how much I hate Damian Wayne.
It's pretty close. It's pretty close.
Okay, because I fucking hate Damian. Notice how none of the Damian Wayne stuff is on here, guys, and never will be. Never gonna happen on
That
my
is
list
that is correct.
ever.
I have one ish in the honorable mentions, but we'll get there in a second.
Okay,
Um,
let's talk about Public Enemies though, because it is on my honorable mentions list.
Dude, Public Enemies is my favorite DC Direct movie of all time ever. No matter
It's
what
very
list,
good.
I love it. This is one that I like. If you want to say no, bro, we said only Batman movies, I would be like, shut up. No.
Hey, his name is in the title.
You specified his name had to be in the
I did.
title.
No, I knew I chose my wording very carefully with that one because I knew when that came up in our text earlier, I was like, I have to say this a certain way because it's going to affect. Because I knew there was a damn good chance Public Enemies was going to make my list because I
Yeah.
really like that movie. It almost made it's number 6 on my
Yeah.
list. Like it almost made the list. So I chose my wording very carefully because I wanted to leave the door open for me to have it on there if I could.
Yeah. It's one of those like, this is where the comic, this movie does something very interesting in that it can and cannot stand on its own. It can
Yeah,
be the sequel to the Justice League cartoons, the Superman cartoons, the Batman cartoons, or it could just be an original story. The way it's written, it's the cap of everything and nothing.
yeah,
It gives you enough information that you know this is what it is, but it doesn't lock itself in so much that it couldn't be connected to anything else.
yeah,
Um, and I am a huge fan of the exploration of this relationship between Batman and Superman. I
yeah.
think it is the key to making successful films. And when
Yep.
you mess it up, it screws everything up. And I just think he's like, you get Tim Daly back. As much as
Yay.
I like George Newbern in the Justice League, I miss Tim Daly the entire freaking time.
We love
So
we stand Tim Daly on this show.
yeah, so when the fact that he actually came back to do this one, it just escalated it even further. And the
Yeah.
comic was really cool. This story is really cool. I do miss the Bat family from the comic, but that's neither here nor there. Um, but I just top to bottom, this thing is just great. It's great, and it's one of those like, yeah, no, this is my favorite. And even if we were just doing DC animated, this would be my favorite. That's why I said like, well, when we do the DC animated, we just won't have Batman stuff.
Yeah.
So
Basically.
yeah, the funny thing was is that when we did a similar list like this, Robert hadn't seen it before. Robert Haley.
Yeah.
We did the episode.
Oh.
It was his number one. He was like, "You were right, Matthew. This was so damn
Oh.
good."
Well, what's cool about Public Enemies is it's the first one to set up any kind of continuity with these direct to DVDs because Superman Batman Apocalypse, which is also on my honorable mentions, is a direct sequel to this one because they reference the events of this story at the beginning of Apocalypse.
Yes.
They reference like Luthor being arrested and talking about the kryptonite meteor and that kind of thing. Like that's all referenced directly. So this is the first time that we established any kind of continuity with these movies, which is also very cool. But Public Enemies, man, like it leans in, like it's very much aware of what it is because the animation is ridiculous. Like
Yes.
these people's bodies make no sense, but it's like that's what they look like in the comics.
That's directly Ed McGuinness's work,
Yeah,
panel to panel. This is what I wish Batman by Gaslight was. This
okay.
direct of a translation because they can
Yeah,
do it, you
they
know.
totally could.
So no, I really did love this one. I mean, I can't speak. I love seeing these two guys together. I also used to like to call this Batman Superman. Why do they have the Justice League? For when that
Right.
scene where they take out like every single villain ever. You
Yeah.
know, you're just like, yeah, these are two. You see two men, two guys, two people who have been through it back and forth, know each other so well that they're just speaking in like, Clark, bring the rain, and he just knows to do this. And It's just like, wow, these guys, like, come on, man. Like, it's just fantastic. So
Well, and
yeah,
it's
this is my
it's
number one.
it's funny because this movie is what had people talking about Sam Liu, who directed it and all of the other directed DVD animated stuff up to that point and to this day. He's directed like all of them, and it had people talking about him the same way people talk about like Dave Filoni over at Star Wars because of what
Yeah.
he's done with like Rebels and Clone Wars and stuff with like the Mandalorian and all that. Unfortunately, it wasn't long after these movies kind of started to tank for a little bit. But like he worked on the Batman. He worked on a bunch of animated stuff in the '90s, and then he just kind of took over all this DC stuff. It's such a good movie. It really is. And I always think back to that line at the end when Batman goes to fly the ship at the meteorite, and Superman just says, "That was my best friend, and you just killed him,"
Yeah.
and is about to just murder Lex Luthor.
What was my other favorite line is like, where were you? You wouldn't understand. Try me. I was seeing Lotus. You're right. I don't
You're right.
understand.
You understand. I also love that, and this has been alluded to in the comics several times, but I love when they're sneaking into the Batcave the back way, and Alfred shows up with a shotgun. It's like Bruce is all no guns, no killing. Alfred's like clack clack motherfucker.
Yeah. 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 I don't know Kung Fu, but I know Ching Ching Pow.
It's so good. It's a great movie. Like I said, it's on my list. It almost made my list. It was hard to take off, but
I
my
understand.
number one is Under the Red Hood. Under the Red Hood. I
Yeah, it's good.
I think it was I saw it like long after it came out and was blown away. It's one of the ones I look at where I'm like, you could take this voice cast and have them play this exact movie in live action, and I don't think you'd
Yes.
know. Like,
Yeah.
I very much include John DiMaggio. I very much include Neil Patrick Harris. I think all of these actors could play these characters live action, and it would be a damn good movie. And when people talk about story arcs I want to see adapted into a live action movie, I always go to Under the Red Hood. It's one of my favorite books. I have the book. I read it constantly. When they were pitching, when they were originally talking about Ben Affleck's Batman movie, I was like, I think it should be an Under the Red Hood. And I had all these ideas of how you could kind of like backdoor introduce other DC characters through this story without necessarily having to commit to anything. I think Under the Red Hood is a supreme piece of work, and it to me, it's kind of the gold standard by which other DC direct to video movies are judged. And I know a lot of people out there feel the same way about a lot of these. But it's one of those ones. I just recently watched the Real Rejects do a first time watch along of the movie, and getting to like live in these people's first time reactions for their movie the way it was for me when I watched it. It kind of just had that, it reestablished like why I love this movie so much, particularly um, Jensen Ackles as Jason Todd, and um, Jason Isaacs as Ra's al Ghul. I think is just Lucius Malfoy as Ra's al Ghul makes way too much sense to have not been done live action yet.
No, it really does. Like that, you're right. This is a phenomenal cast, and at that time, yeah, every one of them could have easily played all of these characters. I think at this point they're probably all a little beyond the proper age type, but
Now, yes.
yeah, but at the time, yeah, this is like you guys should have just done this.
Yeah.
So
You could still do Jason Isaacs as Ra's al Ghul, I think.
I think
I
so.
think
Yeah,
he would still work. I think the rest of them, yeah, because Bruce Greenwood was already a little long in the tooth anyway when this movie came out, but he's a great voice for Batman. I think he does a great job. Um, yeah.
yeah, because
Oh,
he's Batman in what's it called? Well,
Gotham by Gaslight.
he's also Batman in Young Justice.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that. Probably for a
Yeah,
reason. I like that show more than that, but even I know it's not great. Um,
it's
yeah, it's
all the things that make that show fantastic are not the reason to watch the show.
no, it's not. No, it's really not. I love how Bruce Timm loves to inject himself into these movies though, because he's like the voice of like a single line side character in every DC animated movie. Because in this one, he's Riddler, who has all of like 3 words to say in a flashback. Um, but this was also the first time DC really kind of played with going a bit more adult. I mean, we watch a dude's head explode.
Yeah.
We watch Joker beat Robin with a crowbar. Like it's
Oh.
dark. It's
All right, so I got a question for you, and if you got to cut this out, I understand.
okay.
I had to do Batman Under the Red Hood for an episode of Fanboy Junction, and I
Yeah,
just found my casting list. Do you want to hear it?
I want to hear it, and we're gonna leave it in. That's fine because I want to hear how batshit crazy you are.
All right. Uh, Let me see. I gotta look at something real quick because this was a year and a half ago. So I'm trying to figure out who 2 of these people are.
So when I had originally thought about doing this movie as as what they would do for Ben Affleck's movie, I was like, if you're gonna do this, like talk about backdoor introducing characters, like if they wanted to do Constantine, like they could have used this as a way to introduce Constantine. Just have Batman go visit some dude sitting there smoking a cigarette, talking about people coming back to life with a British accent. And boom, there you go. Now you have him and you know
Yeah.
he exists and you're not committed, but he's out there. Like there's so many things you could do with
All
this
right.
story to introduce other characters. What you got?
Yeah. All right. So here we go. My director is Ji Woon Kim. He is a Korean director, and he directed The Good, the Bad, and the Weird. And he directed this amazingly dark film called I Saw the Devil.
Oh, I saw that.
And so
It's
he's the
good.
director of
It's
that
pretty good.
movie.
Okay.
Let's see. This is where I go off the rails a little. This is the one I think at the time I just watched Old Guard, so this seemed like a good idea. But Black Adam maybe have squashed this. But I picked Marwan Kanzari to be Raj Al Ghul. He's
Who was he
he
in Black
was
Adam?
the bad guy, the guy who's twirling his mustache the whole time for some
Oh,
inexplicable reason.
Jafar?
Yeah, Jafar.
Jafar as Ra's al Ghul? Maybe, but I'm also of the mindset of stop casting him as a villain because he can't play a villain.
Yeah. Well, and that's what I said. If you watch the Old Guard, he is fantastic
Okay.
in the Old Guard. He's not a
Gotcha, gotcha,
villain
gotcha.
ish. Um, I cast Sean Bean as Alfred. Now remember, this is like a year and a half
Oh,
ago, 2 years ago.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Black Mask. I cast Tom Ellis, who played Lucifer in the Lucifer show.
Oh, very good. Oh, very good choice.
Um, Nightwing. I cast Ludi Lin.
Oh, we talked about him recently. Yeah.
Yeah, we talked about him for Aztec. Red
Yeah.
Hood. I cast Zach Efron
Okay. Yeah. I
just
like
because I
Zach
think
Efron. It just, yeah.
once he kind of steps away from the pretty boy thing, I think he does fantastic work. I mean, the
Yeah.
fact that he, in my opinion, outdances and outsings Hugh Jackman in that stupid Barnum and
Oh,
Bailey,
the
whatever
greatest
it's called,
showman.
yeah, is
Yeah. The
ridiculous and
mediocre
just
movie about a terrible person.
yeah, yeah. That the music's great, so everybody loves it.
Yeah.
Um, and then I cast Eric Bana as Batman.
See, that's where I'm mixed. That's where I'm mixed. I have a love-hate thing with Eric Bana. I don't know what it is.
My
No.
thing, I like him a lot. I just feel like they tried to make him that leading man, and he's not exactly there.
No. Cause
But
like because like along with other things, he sucks in Hulk. He's he's very bad in Hulk. The movie itself is bad. He is also very bad.
well, and my but I'll counter that with he almost steals the movie Troy,
I was just about to say, but he's very good in Troy. And he's a great bad guy in the 2009 Star Trek movie. Like
and
he's
then
he's
yeah,
he's very good in that.
and look, that King Arthur movie that Guy Ritchie did sucked,
Oh,
but I was all about watching Eric Bana as Uther Pendragon. I was like, wait,
yeah, but
that's the movie I want to watch.
man, that movie sucks. You know
Yes,
what that was? That Guy Ritchie one, or was that the Guy Ritchie one? You're
that's
right.
the
You're right.
Guy
You're right.
Ritchie one. Yeah,
Yeah,
with
that movie sucks.
yes,
Ooh. That's up there with what's the one that came out in like 2003? that had
Clive Owen. It was just called King Arthur.
what? Yeah, who directed that one?
Uh, Antoine,
Was that Antoine Fuqua?
or it was him or Gary Gray. I can't remember which one. Let's see.
I'm looking it up now. 2000. I'm going to
Yeah,
cut all this out. Antoine Fuqua did cut. I'm leaving all this in. No, Eric Bana though, like Eric Bana is one of those guys. It's like he's either very good or he's very bad, regardless of the movie that he's in. So that's where I'm kind of like, it depends on which Eric Bana I get.
yeah. If it's Hector Arabana or like, because I also think like he's a pretty big guy.
Yeah.
Like they had to put him in loose clothes for him not to look ridiculously imposing as Hulk or Bruce Banner, or whatever. And then here
Well,
you go. You ready? Oh, go ahead.
you see him in Star Trek in a couple of the flashbacks where he's like on the Klingon prison planet, he's jacked.
Oh yeah, yeah.
He's very jacked. Anyway, what else you got?
All right. So this is the last one. This is the one everybody hates me when I bring this up, but I'm like, no, this is
Okay.
fantastic. The Joker played by Hugh Jackman.
No, shut up. No, no,
Nope,
not.
nope. Take a
No,
moment.
absolutely not.
Take a moment.
No,
Nope. Take a
no.
moment.
I'm taking all the moments, dude.
Imagine the Joker played by Hugh Jackman
No,
fighting Batman.
no, I'm not into it. That is going up there with Dolph Lundgren,
No, no.
or you know what? It's going up there with Margot Robbie as Wonder Woman. Like that's just
Simmer
what?
on it. Simmer on it
No,
a
I'm not gonna
little.
simmer on it. No,
Simmer on it.
this is not Chris Pine as Lex Luthor, where I'm going to eventually come around to it. Like,
Okay.
no, you're out of your mind.
All right.
I
So
will
so
fight you to
so
death on that one.
so when you change your mind, I want you to put a little note on the episode when he releases.
Yeah, I'll do a little sound effect cutaway to me going, "Hey guys, it's Mike here. I want to let you know I still haven't changed my mind."
ah, yeah. It's just one of those weird. I have this weird thing of like I hate the fact that every Joker we've ever had, the moment Batman finds him, you're not worried. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I would. That's why I wanted more of Ben Affleck and Jared Leto because I really wanted to see
Oh
what they
my!
could do with that.
He would have.
I I
He would have Loki'd him at like Hulk. When Hulk did to Loki, that version of Batman would have done to that Joker.
I'm not as convinced because I think what they were going for with Leto's was that he was just psychotic enough that it could give him a run for his money. Like he'd be scrappy, he'd be squirrely. I don't know, but we'll never know at this point. We're never gonna know. It'll never happen, so it's fine. Um, but Under the Red Hood, guys.
Yeah, with Joker played by Hugh Jackman, it's going to be fantastic, guys. When it comes out, I'm just
Never,
saying
never. John DiMaggio's Joker. This is so good. All
it
right.
is.
Do we want to try to make a cohesive top five list, or
No,
I'm
there's
not
no
trying to
need.
rip off. I'm not. Yeah, I'm not trying to rip off the
We don't
top
need
10
to.
here, and also we'll fight about it for hours. So those are our
Yeah.
respective top five lists. What are some of your honorable mentions?
Batman Bad Blood is my honorable mention. I,
I
I,
don't like
I,
that one.
I like it just because it's Nightwing, but I really
That's
wish they would have expanded it. I feel like Nightwing as Batman is a two-part movie system.
you could do
You should
yeah,
have
like that should
had,
have been a whole movie.
yeah,
It was 5 minutes.
yeah, and that's where I was like, why? What? Just make it a full thing. I don't know why that happened so fast, but
Because it was a fairly substantial run in the comics. Like
yes, it was several
bit.
times.
Yeah. Well, like the one in particular with Damian Wayne that was in like 2000 and I think like 2012. Like that ran for a bit.
Yeah.
I don't
Well,
know.
and there's I just felt like you could have done more with that whole thing, and that was the last straw in my opinion of like I don't understand why you guys keep screwing Nightwing over. You know,
Yeah,
you
I get
kind
it.
of made up for it with the Judas Project, but even then it was kind of awkward and weird the way you kind of made him cool. So
Well, same with Batman versus Robin. They
yeah,
tried to do more with him, but ultimately he was just there to babysit Damien and get saved by Batman. And it's like, hey, come on, guys. Like and flirt with Starfire, which was funny. But
yes, yeah, they do. Did you watch Judas Contract?
Yeah, it is. I have
'Cause
kind of like with you with the Jason Todd thing. Anytime Damien's involved, I struggle. And
mm,
ever since Son of Batman was released, they put Damien in everything.
yeah,
And there are no words to describe how much I A hate Damian Wayne as a character, and B, the kid they have doing the voice acting for him sucks.
yeah, yeah.
So yeah, I just kind of that's why I still have not yet watched like Batman and Superman Sons Adventure, where it's their kids, whatever that movie's called.
I'm
I don't
not
know.
watching it. I'm not
I
watching it.
refuse. The animation looks bad too, but just anyway. Yeah, no, I'm with you. I had Batman versus Dracula on mine. Public Enemies was on mine. Batman Year One's on mine. I love the story. I don't like the voice cast in the movie. I also had The Long Halloween,
I
the
still
Jensen
haven't
Ackles
gone
one.
back to it. I can't say for sure. I fell asleep during the first one, and I keep telling myself to go back and watch the second one. I just haven't taken the time to do it.
I really enjoyed that one. Gotham Knight was on my list, which was the all anime
Yeah,
anthology they did after Batman Begins. It's pretty good. It just most of it has nothing to do with Batman, so I kind of left it off. I mentioned I have Death in the Family on here. The problem with Death in the Family is that
it's
if
just
you
a
watch it on
re-edit of Red Hood.
well, yes, if you have to get the DVD to really appreciate it because it's got like 30 different endings you can have.
Yeah,
Like
that's
these
right.
30, which is cool. It's on HBO Max, but you can only watch the regular story. You can't do the choose your own adventure. So I've never gotten to experience that. And I have one on my honorable mentions list that I'm going to defend, and
Okay.
that is The Killing Joke, because the part of the movie that's actually the killing joke is fantastic. It's up there with The Dark Knight Returns because it's a panel for panel remake of the comic. It's that bullshit 20 minutes at the top that ruins it.
Yeah, yeah, and it's that's where I don't like Bruce Timm, because ever since Batman Beyond, he's been pushing this weird thing that Barbara Gordon and Batman get together, and I feel like that is disgusting on like three or four different levels.
Yeah, there's a lot of things wrong with that. The implications of that, and so let's just not. That's why I've noticed in more recent Batman things they've made Batgirl a lot younger so they can eliminate that as being a possibility. Because
Yeah,
like in the Batman she's 14.
yeah, yeah,
In the Harley Quinn series she's like 18, like exactly, like she's like a freshman in college. But also her and Batman don't really interact till way later anyway. Yeah, no, the killing, that's always been my thing with the Killing Joke. I will defend the latter 50 minutes of the Killing Joke. It's the 20 minutes they tacked on to make it feature length that honestly they're going to have to, if you believe in God, you're going to have to answer to God for that one. Like that's one that he's going to get involved with personally. Like, hey, St. Peter, don't let that guy through the gate yet. Send him to my office. We need to have a chat. Like, hey, so Bruce, real quick, about the Killing Joke.
Well, and this is where to me, like some of these things just don't work because you have to give the backstory. And
Yeah,
Batgirl hadn't appeared in a single movie
yeah,
up to that point, except for like a 3-second cameo.
yeah.
And that's where I was like, this is where those directed DVDs at the movies, because they did the same thing with Reign of Superman, where it's like if we don't breathe with the character, you can't force it into one movie.
Yeah.
And that's where I think with this, like, yeah, you guys should have done a different storyline with her in it and then done that one instead of trying to force this horrible,
See,
weird
I
thing.
personally think they could have done it just fine because Batgirl's not a character in the Killing Joke. Barbara Gordon is, but Batgirl's not.
Yeah.
So I don't think you needed. They only did it so they could get it to a feature length, so they could give it a limited theatrical release, and whatever. It is what it is.
Yeah. It was
But
pretty,
yeah,
pretty dumb.
yeah. So those are our lists, guys. We'd love to know what your top five Batman direct to DVD videos are. There's a couple different ways you guys can let us know. First and foremost, you can head over to our new website, which is podpage.com/wearethebatman. And hit the contact button. You guys can send us questions, comments, criticisms, episode ideas, or let us know your idea of a top 5 Batman animated direct-to-video. You can also find the show on Twitter at We Are the Batman. And Matt, where else can they let us talk to us online?
And go to www.facebook.com/group/fansboy junction with the K, or you can hit me up on Twitter at Mr. J Ninja.
And you can find me on Twitter at Mr. Mike Shea. And until next time, guys, we'll see you here on We Are the Batman. Same bat time, same bat podcast channel.
Take care, guys.